Well, we like today. Well, we like these 3 days. You get one group. The work, the heavy lifting's been done. So you're just trying to get them up to speed. You got pretty much all NHL players on the ice with experience, so you move pretty fast.
For Mackie, you said you talked to him on Saturday. Just as a coach, how much do you love those chats and telling?
Yeah, I mean, there's a standard. Well, to fully appreciate the amount of work, and I'm not even really talking about the player. The player puts a lot of work to get to the NHL, but the families, moms and dads, everybody, volunteer coaches that he would have played for, the idea of getting the opportunity to play your first NHL game and you only get one of them in your entire career, no matter how illustrious it is. It's a huge family day, so you kind of get to enjoy that, watching young guys and sometimes not so young guys get their first game, and it's pretty exciting for them.
Does the being able to tell them you're doing it overweigh the times when you have to tell guys not just yet? Because that's got to be disappointing.
Yeah, the easy news is easy to give, right? It's exciting and you're happy for them. And we spend, you figure that camps are smaller than they used to be, that you'd be cutting somewhere between 30 and 50 guys, and some of them would be the end of their career. You'd have to have that conversation with them. Those are a little heavier, so it's a nice balance.
And you talk about older guys. You've got Uvis here, 26 years old. Anything that has stood out to you here in the training camp and the preseason and all that with him?
Yeah, he's built through his camp. I thought the first 5 days are very difficult to assess somebody because they are that heavy. They're a hard thing to get through. But after you come off it, you see some players can almost never recover from that. So they just continually get worn down as camp. And then you get guys, some of that's their fitness level, they actually get stronger. They got a day or two of rest, and then the practices aren't quite as heavy. And he has gotten quite a bit quicker, and we were really, I don't know if surprised is the right word, because the pro scouts worked hard to find a player like this, right. But excited about the potential of it. And we like the way he moves the puck, but more like the way he plays the game without any fear. He's trying to make plays, he's trying to get involved, he's trying to kill plays. There's no nervousness. It doesn't seem, you can't feel any nervousness from him.
And when you find a guy like this, I mean, I was talking to Stephen Laird, he just give that scout a raise kind of thing, right? I mean,
well, pro scouts have done a miraculous job over the last 4 or 5 years. Not just finding players maybe that were off other NHL teams' rosters. I mean, off them, not on them. And then we've had some Sam Bennett's and some Sam Reinhart's come in, and Carter Verhaeghe have just been so good for us. So they do a really good job here of finding that. I would say they do a good job of finding unique players. That there's something about their game that. You have to have a real good eye to see.
Mackie,
that's why they don't let me scout.
Mackie has said that Anton Lundell is a player who he's looked to for advice during this time. Have you seen Anton Lundell embrace that leadership role, or is there anything that sticks out in that regard?
So many of the most important things that happen to a young player aren't player to coach, they're player to player. They will learn so much more from the guy on their line and the player they play with. So we ran him in camp with either Bennett and Tkachuk, or Reinhart and Lundell, because of those four guys either articulate the game very well, or they set a pace that we like, or they're just good mentors in the style of game that they play. So he's been lucky to have those guys, and they've been part of the culture of that group is they're very welcoming to new players. They come in and they feel comfortable and they feel a part of it. So I'm sure Anton did a fine job of that. And Anton, it's not that long ago. See, also Anton would understand what it's like to walk in as the new kid a little bit and the nervousness. And he has mentioned, Anton, in the past that he really appreciated the fact of how well he was treated when he got here. There was none of the rookie things that he had to go through. He was welcomed with open arms, and the benefit is when he steps on the ice, he feels like a Florida Panther.
How much of that do you think has to do, like we've talked a lot about just how good of the room that you guys have here. Just how much do you think has to do with welcoming a guy like Mackie?
All of it. All of it, because the standard that the coaches have to set, I mean, you've got to play a certain game here. But the personal stuff in the room, it starts with your captain. So Barkov would treat our 13th forward as his equal in terms of being in the room. So he said, and Matthew and Aaron are all like that, really kind of outgoing, friendly guys. So that's the tone setters. Everybody else falls in line. And We have a fair amount of turnover really in the last 2 years. I think 7 out, and we probably got 8 or 9 new guys here. So that we've been through this now quite a bit. The new guys come in last year, get treated a certain way. They treat the new guys that come in this year a certain way, and they've got a good room. They're a good bunch of men.
Anything new on Sam Bennett?
No, he won't. He won't play in the opener for sure.
Would he go on the trip, or is he just out?
I don't know that because it is a day-to-day thing in terms of when we project him to be able to skate. If we don't feel that he's going to get meaningful ice time, we would leave him back. That doesn't mean, in some situations, we'd have him join. Because if we're going to be traveling and all we got are morning skates, and in Winnipeg we don't even have really a morning skate, we would leave a guy back, skate here, and fly him in. But I know he won't play in the opener.
Coach, I know you talked a lot last season about adding defense without subtracting from offense.
Yeah.
When you can add a two-way forward, like Evan Rodriguez, the strides that Verhaeghe made last season defensively, how would you evaluate kind of that aspect going into this season of having forwards who are defensive-minded as well as offensively talented?
That's a good question. I believe standing behind the fence, our forward group has a far greater understanding of where we're at now than a year ago. Just systems, what we're running. Because you can tell how much your system, how much your team is taking in, but how they call the game. So the players are talking on the bench about what's happening on the ice, and they're on it. We got a almost completely new back end. The defense is so much change over there. So I'm not saying that we will be. There will come a time where we're a much better defensive team this year than we were last year. I believe that. Part of that is just style of play and mentality of going through the playoffs and understanding you can't open it up when you're down a goal. You just can't. So I think we learned that. Have to reinvest in that idea here. But I'm not so sure that you're going to see an automatic defensive payoff for the player like Rodriguez coming in or the growth of a Lusterin and a Lundell, because we've got to prove our defensive game with some new people.
Ready to watch some hockey today?
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it. So there's only, hopefully 10 straight months of it every night. So yeah, it'll be good.
Is there anything you can tell us about Brett Ritchie's situation?
Yeah, he's got some options ahead of him. One of them is take a path with us. We'd like him to, but he's, a veteran guy that now comes off the PTO idea into what's my next move. So we've laid out a path for him to stay with us and stay with the organization, and then he has to find out what's best for him and his family.
Would that path be here or start in Charlotte, or was that kind of the conversation?
That was the conversation about how that would work. I mean, we're comfortable with the roster we put in. We still have room on that roster, and that'll get sorted out more tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you believe, top to bottom, injuries aside, that you have a deeper team going into the opening night than you did last year?
Injuries aside.
So, looking at the grand scheme of things, once those guys come back and then you look at your depth chart, those bubble guys, you think you have a deeper roster now than you did last year?
That's a good question, right? Because the piece that... So I'm going to say yes to you. But if I left it at that, then I wouldn't be mindful of the fact that your depth is proven. So you're only as deep as hard you can play. So we can look at the names on the rosters and say, hey, they're even deeper this year, and that's got nothing to do with how we'll play. We got to prove it every night. If we can get to the same level of intensity in our game, we think we have added some players that actually still have some upside. And I'm going to put Ekman Larsson in that group, even though he's had a brilliant career. We think that he can excel here with this group.
You have to be real happy with what you saw from him in the preseason. I mean, he's come off 2 rough years. I mean,
for sure. I mean, I remember him in Arizona, just the number of video clips that we would put on our penalty kill about how you have to get in the shot lane on this guy, and we'd put 5 on there, and he'd still get that damn puck by our first guy. We just couldn't. He's so deceptive with that puck. But I'm very pleased. I wasn't really worried where he'd get to. I thought we could get him back to being a really, really good player. I'm really pleased with how fast he's jumped in. He looks like he's having fun, and he looks like he's excited about playing hockey again, and that could be really good for us.
yeah, he said he broke that foot twice in a year. That'll slow you down.
He had a whole bunch of things that and they got it to be cumulative on him. So the first break in his foot sets his training back. So fine, the foot heals, but you're not where you need to be, and then it breaks again. Like both Montour and Ekblad's injuries are upper body. their legs are going to be fine,
Right.
right? I mean, they're going to hate skating by the time they get back in the lineup. But when you have an injury in the lower body, you are really at a stop until you can get it right. So it just affects you completely differently.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach.
Okay, guys.